In today's video, we're game planning to stop the offense's biggest plays. Hey, what's going on, YouTube? Mr. Football here today. Today, I'm finishing up a series, part 6. It's my defensive breakdown series. We were looking at the Miami Hurricanes from 2019, and we were breaking down their bowl game against Wisconsin. It's been a while since I've updated the series, but this is going to be the last video of it, and I'm really titling this more or less to stopping against spread option offenses. And so when we face a spread option offense, what I look for, and just as a quick example for what Miami was doing, if you guys haven't seen, they're reading defensive ends right here. You can notice on this, their guys sitting, and they're pretty much getting off the ball here. But when we went through, and I would really encourage you guys to go through and watch this whole series from the start, because we go through and we break down each formation. But we're at the point of planning now in this video series where we need to talk about how we're going to actually stop these offensive plays that they run. Now, obviously, this was a very small selection. I'll do a bigger breakdown at a later time on something else. But as far as what we see here, their main plays, they're running inside zone, but they're running read off of it. And so I just tag it in here as zone read. Six out of the 10 times that they were either in zone or what I'm calling zone read, I'm looking for them reading that defensive end. And so, the quarterback, he's a offensive threat, especially on this play right here. Breaks off a 62-yard run. I mean, this was their best offensive play of the night real early on, okay? But what you can see is, their defensive end right here makes a huge mistake, okay? And all he does, and, they've been reading him, and this is real early on. Oops, I'm drawing. But, this is pretty early on in the game. You can see it's play 7, and he gets in down here pretty quick, but the quarterback takes off. He squeezes down just a little bit too much, and you can see that adjustment later on when you start watching this defensive end. I mean, he gets burnt pretty good. And another big thing is, like, you can see that Wisconsin, by alignment wise, this is probably a pretty easy matchup right here. Their quarterback's probably a better athlete than that DN. Okay. And so it just, that's a huge bubble that, Miami attacked right there. And that's a good call on their part. What I like to do is I like to draw up a lot of their, top plays. If it's something they run only once, I usually don't include it. But if it's something that they run consistently, like, what we saw was they were running a ton of zone, a lot of zone concepts. So we need to look at, drawing that up against our defense and seeing what we can do to stop it. Okay, so we've lined up just with base defense. They're in a tray look here with the tight end set to the wide side of the field. The wide side of the field is concerning to me because we do leave some bubbles for the offense to attack. And so what I like to do just here in huddle is I like to just go through and, and try to scheme up something to just stop their. Now, obviously, we'll have our base defense and our base principles of our defense will stop inside zone. Like, that's not a problem. I don't have to make a special blitz or a special call to stop this one play. But if there's something that I see in my base defense that I can pull from, like I can pull a stunt out of my back pocket and I can say, well, when they're lined up on the short side of the field and, we're going to call our defensive strength to the field. So, like, I'm going to set my strong safety to the field. I'm going to set my mic. I'm going to set my 3 technique to the field, and pretty much we're going to, like, roll our coverage right here. We'll be in like a check, what we call just like a check roll, and we'll roll our cover 3 down to a quarter half, okay, or some variation of that. But what we do with this, and like I'll just show you an example. Like we'll run a Toro, All right. And so what a Toro is, and you can have whatever you guys call your stuff, but like we're just going to run an inside interior stunt or a slant, I guess you'd say, just to get the offense, just to get our defense moving in the right direction. Because if they're on this hash and I'll tell you this much, when you go back and watch through the film, okay, and you see this stuff, over time when you watch enough film of teams, here they are, far hash from us, running it to the field. Here's the next one. Okay, still on the far hash. You can see, they're trying to get to the field. They're not running to the short side of the field. Here's another one, but I think they actually pretty much turn it back inside, but that's fine. I mean, you can see right here, the quarterback was reading. I think they fumbled the ball on that one. But here you go. See, so like those 4 plays right there tell me like we're going to try to do something to the field. And so like what we'll do is we'll run a Toro, okay? And what we'll do is instead of having our 3 technique, his normal key, his key comes at him to block him, and we're just going to tell him to slant essentially to the tackle's inside hip. Okay, so this tackle shouldn't block him. If obviously if they've got a strong tendency to run inside zone, we're going to just say we're not telling him to shoot up the field, but we're going to tell him his key is that tackle. When he sees that gap open up, we don't want this combo to happen because they're trying to combo up to our linebacker. Our linebacker is probably going to make the play on this. All right, if he does everything right. And we'll go ahead and get our nose man moving in the right direction too. We'll go ahead and get him, trying to cross face the center. Maybe the center picks him up and that frees up somebody else. Okay. Because, they'll be stepping here. They're going to read our defensive end. All right. So he's probably not going to be in the play, but he's got to be checking back because the quarterback may, want to turn and get it right here if he's being read. And so that's just something to kind of just like our defensive end, to this, he's got to think option. All right. Well, nobody touches me. He really needs to squeeze down right here. He needs to squeeze down and make sure that he's not my force player by any means. Okay. We'll have our bandit, our outside safety here to come up and force the ball if the quarterback, keeps it. But, like we're just trying to get players moving in motion. And I'm not saying like we're trying to get our linebacker to go outside or anything because you start flying around, offenses will pick you apart. So just little simple things like just stunting our line and running just a slant to the field would be something. Okay. Now my defensive end here, who's probably getting double teamed, and if you go back and watch one of the clips here. Here's a good one right here here you go. So they're tied in matching up on what would be our 6-tech defensive end. We just need that guy to hold his ground. We just need this guy to hold his ground and see gap and hopefully get the ball, hopefully to spill outside, and we can make the tackle right in here as far as like how our run fits and stuff goes. So that's kind of what, I'm looking at here. Our corners, he's going to drop into coverage first, and then they're going to be late to the party once we realize that there's no RPO or any kind of short game. And, we'll have our will linebacker. He'll be scraping right here, try to avoid that lineman. Okay. So that's inside. That's just a simple adjustment to inside zone. Okay. Moving on. Another formation that, when I went through and special formations like trips closed, depending on where you see trips closed. So they've got the trips to the wide side of the field, and you can see the tight end down here and on the short side of the field. And what we see with this, they're going to probably run. And what I've just noticed over time is that they'll run a lot of their passing concepts, a lot of their RPOs to the wide side of the field and try to run something back to the short side of the field. I mean, they've got the run numbers over here to get a few yards, a pop. But when you look at it here, there's opportunities for short bubbles, slants, stick routes, stuff like that. And so this was kind of the play we drew up. I believe we drew this one up last time, and we were on here a couple episodes ago. But where they were running, like a bubble concept on the backside, and obviously running inside zone concept to this side. So how do we deal with that in our defense? Well, we're base 4-2-5, but what we're going to look at trying to do to close is we're going to set our run strength. All right, we're going to set it to our tight end. Now that kind of is the main thing that I look at. If we find that we might want to look at flipping the strength to the wide side of the field, like I'll just make like a wide call. Like that'll be like I'll make like a wide, give the front, stunt, coverage, blitz, whatever. Okay, so what I see right here, really nothing different I want to do with this. I would like to just, play straight up. But what we might do as far as the coverages that we look at, there's a couple things you could do. You could go cover zero. Okay. We could cover zero this. So what we might do is we might roll to some cover zero. And sometimes I like to do that versus trips. I don't always like to do it. I like to play like more off man when we do that. But like if it's something we want to see right here, I usually depends on where you're at on the field, but sometimes a possible call that we might want to look at is this bandit will be freed up here. Obviously we can have our corner, cover him since he's the lone receiver threat on this side other than the back. We can probably go ahead and have our force player go ahead and set the edge or just go ahead and bring him early to stop this, especially if they're going to run trips close, to the boundary here. That's something that, we can kind of look at. They're probably going to combo right here with our defensive end. He's got to do a good job of getting in C gap, okay, because he's going to fill that pressure key. His pressure key is going to be essentially his tight end blocking. Okay. We just don't want our tight end here to, release out to our force player and get him blocked. So our defensive end's got to do a really good job of setting into C gap, really taking care of the tight end so we can have a linebacker free and we can have our force player, our safety here free. And then the last resort being, the free safety coming over, and then the last resort obviously being our corner on this side too. But we could look at it like a cover zero to this and just play straight up. But sometimes when we run cover zero, we want to bring somebody. So we might bring, a smoke blitz. What you call, if you don't know, a smoke blitz is just a safety blitz. I'm just using some of our terminology. And just some base 4-2-5 terminology as well. But anyway, so that's a possibility for that. But other than that, two adjustments that I like for, seeing trips closed, set the strength through the tight end, as far as run strength goes, set your pass strength how you normally would, and then do going wide side of the field and do that as well. Counter read. All right, so this is their big play, and this is the last one I want to talk about today. Because we can make a blitz off this. We can prepare for this. So what I see with this and how we would play it is, they're over here on the hash. I'd go ahead and say, that we've got the wide side of the field to work with here. So this guy's going to be red. They're running counter read. We'll go back and watch counter read one time here and talk about counter read. So the defensive end, he really squeezes down, okay? Otherwise, this play's probably getting stopped, okay, if the running back gets to keep the ball. But, Miami makes, their quarterback, you got to give him credit here for being an athlete and seeing this. He runs, straight down the middle of both the hashes. It's awesome. They run it how it's supposed to be run, and how they drew it up probably. But, what we can do with this is we can gap exchange. And a lot of times I like gap exchanges, for gap schemes. So a gap to me, if this was to happen here, all right, and we were going to get, something happening where this guy squeezes down and, ultimately they're trying to, run just like they did here. So what I could see us doing with this is we could make, a stunt to try to get gaps open. And so what would naturally happen is, we could get our defensive end to squeeze down on that tackle. All right. And we could make a blitz here where, we could X essentially these two. Sometimes I like this even on the weak side better, where we'll stunt since we already have B gap covered, like another, something that just like might be a good change up, just for an example. Let's try the under front and just see what our under front looks like versus this real quick here. Make some adjustments here. And sometimes you look at it and you're like, well, maybe the over front isn't going to be the best thing. And that happens. Like, sometimes your base fronts end up being, more of an issue there. Okay. So, if you look at just like an under front, what we can see that might be, like a good change up here. Well, you change up probably how their blocking scheme goes. The center is going to have to block back on your tackle there. And they're probably still kicking out your defensive end no matter what. You get a weak side B gap defender. We've got our tackle, one of our best players, going to be an A gap. They probably collapse down with the tackle here. Still leaves this guy open, but what I'm going to do is we're going to stunt him inside, okay, and get him on the track of the tackle there, and bring. If this is something we see, and it's a gamble, this is the one gamble I would make, and we would just call like a Mike, like we would call like the blitz like Mike C or something, where we're gonna have the Mike go to C gap. If that's a total. Like if you do this one right and that guy tackles him right at the line of scrimmage, you look like a genius, or you lose a run defender and you look like a fool. So that's the one adjustment that, can hurt you sometimes. Another adjustment that sometimes with the under front, I should say, is like we could get, I don't know. I would probably run something similar to this, or even run like an under G might be okay to do. Sometimes I think like if you can have like a 5, like maybe even an odd front would be better for this, better suited for it. But that's why you got to look at, all the different parts that you have in your defense to see, what's going to work against like these really good plays. And this may have just been like the one truly good play they had. You have to consider it because, they're thinking like, hey, this worked good for us. But I really think what hurt Wisconsin on this was that defensive end squeeze just a little bit too hard, and I think they just made the wrong call. But that's, they ended up winning the game. So, it ended up wasn't that big of a hit anyway. And Miami really didn't. This was about the extent of their offense in that game. Okay. But I hope you guys enjoyed this series. I'm just trying to throw out ideas here. We face some spread option teams. Sometimes they don't. Sometimes the option element more or less isn't on the run game. It's more of the RPO passing game that you see a lot of. But like I said, you got to look at it from different perspectives. But that's just kind of where we come into play with this. But I hope you guys enjoyed this. So it's been fun to make this series, but I really wanted to just close this series down finally and delete off some of this Miami film that I have stored around. But it's been fun. I've enjoyed watching this, and if there's a game you guys think I should break down, like I would like to do like more modern offenses. So if there's something like, I don't know, I like Big 12. I don't really like Big 12 offenses, but because their defenses do crazy stuff. But I don't know. That might be a good test for me to just see kind of where I'm at. But guys, give me a game, and I'll go out there and find it, and we can break down something else here in the future, something unique. I know eventually I'm going to go back to the Flexbone, talk more about Flexbone stuff, and how we've defended against them in the past. So talk about some things I like versus them. But yeah, that's all I've got for today. So I want to say thank you guys for watching this video, especially if you watched it all the way to the end. I greatly thank you for that. Be sure to check out our social media links down in the description below. You can find me on Twitter, Instagram. And you can also I've got a little website, mrfootball@card.co. So yeah, you can find that down there below, I believe. But yeah, thank you guys so much for watching, and we'll see you next time. Mr. Football out.
Perfect. Perfect. Perfect.